There is no gentle way to begin this story, no warm-up, no easing into the madness. We start with the most unhinged threat ever uttered on live wrestling television. A grown man vowing to choppy another grown man's pee-pee with a katana. Val Venis versus Kaientai was already a bizarre storyline built on flimsy motivations, questionable stereotypes, and attitude-era chaos. But on one fateful night in 1999, Mr. Yamaguchi-san went from annoyed heel manager to R-rated supervillain in under 5 seconds. Val had slept with Yamaguchi-san's wife. Kaientai wanted revenge. Reasonable setup until the WWE writers said, you know what this feud needs? Castration. Live on Raw. Yamaguchi-san screamed into the camera with anime villain intensity.
Got a message! Jumpy, yo! Beep, beep!
The crowd erupted, not with cheers, not with boos, but with that perfect attitude era react. Did he just say that? The following week, Kaientai tied Val to a tape, disrobed him, raised the sword, and Raw faded to black like a horror. Even USA Network said, we don't want to be here. And the payoff? Val calmly explained he was rescued by John Bob, the one man in human who has the role. If Choppy was attitude era chaos, then this was PG era madness at its most unhinged, most cartoonish, and most how is this real? Hornswoggle once joined DX. Cute, funny, harmless.
You are now the official D-Generation X mascot!
What in the world? Look at this! Attack!
Then DX betrayed him.
No way! Pedigree!
Less cute, still funny, then Hornswoggle sued them. Okay. Then the WWE said, what if we recreate the entire American legal system, but with little people? Thus was born Little People's Court. Shawn Michaels and Triple H wandered backstage into a tiny hallway designed like Willy Wonka's legal nightmare. Doors, furniture, judge's bench all small, jury box tiny, bailiff shorter than a Funko Pop. Shawn could barely keep a straight face. Triple H looked like he was reconsidering his entire career trajectory. The judge, also a little person, slammed a miniature gavel that sounded like a hamster sneezing. The jury glared at DX like they personally caused the housing crisis. The bailiff scolded Shawn in the voice of an angry kindergarten teacher. DX tried to defend themselves. The courtroom roared. Shawn apologized. Triple H lied. Hornswoggle demanded justice. It was chaos. It was absurd. It was peak PG era surrealism, a segment so weird that even the WWE didn't know if it was comedy, punishment, or a cry for help. In 1998, the WWE was pushing boundaries, but this time they didn't just push, they detonated them with reckless abandon. DX decided to parody the Nation of Domination. A funny idea on paper, but then somebody backstage approved blackface. Triple H darkened his skin to impersonate The Rock. X-Pac did the same for Mark Henry. Road Dogg mocked D'Lo Brown. Billy Gunn mocked Karma. The crowd laughed nervously. The network didn't laugh at all. The locker room silently wondered if anyone in creative had ever spoken to a real human being. Even for the Attitude Era, this crossed every line imaginable. Today, it's widely regarded as one of the WWE's most infamous misfires, offensive, baffling, and genuinely unbelievable. This wasn't funny, this wasn't edgy, this was a national scandal. In 2005, Muhammad Hassan's character began as timely social commentary about discrimination. But the storyline took a dark, horrifying turn when masked men in military-style uniforms ambushed The Undertaker at Hassan's command. Choking wires, ritualistic poses, a prayer that summoned attackers. It looked like a reenactment of extremist propaganda footage, and the segment aired days after the London bombings. UPN executives panicked. Sponsors called immediately. The WWE removed the character entirely. One segment, one PR disaster, one career wiped off the map. Some WWE segments age badly, some age like milk. And then there's the night Vince McMahon demanded Trish Stratus, one of the most talented women ever to step into the ring crawl around on her hands and knees, strip to her underwear, and literally bark like a dog.
Bark like a dog! Come on! Tell me you're sorry!
All while an arena full of fans watched. All while millions at home watched. All while his storyline wife Linda sat catatonic in a wheelchair. This happened during the build-up to Vince vs. Shane at WrestleMania X7, where Trish played the role of Vince's trophy mistress. But the humiliation went too far. Even in the early 2000s, fans felt the discomfort ripple through the arena. This wasn't edgy, this wasn't funny, this was disturbing. The crowd didn't know whether to boo, cheer, or call HR on behalf of Trish. Even wrestlers backstage hated it, later calling it one of the WWE's most misogynistic moments ever. Yes, Trish eventually got her revenge at WrestleMania, but the damage of this segment lives forever as a reminder of WWE's darkest creative impulses. 2005 was a strange year in the WWE. You had John Cena in full Doctor of Thugonomics mode, Kurt Angle feuding with Santa Claus, and Vince McMahon trying his hardest to stay culturally relevant.
I'm down.
And then he said it. Vince strutted up to Cena backstage, threw out a few awkward attempts at street slang, and then casually dropped the N-word like he thought he was inventing a new catchphrase. He walked away proudly. The crowd reacted with a collective gasp. And Booker T, standing off to the side, delivered the most iconic silent reaction in wrestling history. His face said, "Tell me, he didn't just say that. Even for the WWE, a company that once booked necrophilia jokes, this was a jaw-on-the-floor moment." The clip still circulates today, usually with people asking the same question: how did this make it past rehearsals? Somewhere deep inside the WWE's writer's room, one brave soul must have stood up and declared, "Gentlemen, what if Mae Young gives birth to a hand?" And remarkably, everyone else said, "Yes, of course, brilliant, television gold." Mark Henry and Mae Young's oddball romance already had fans laughing, cringing, and staring into the existential void. But the pregnancy storyline remains one of the most legendary absurdities in wrestling history. Mae Young screamed. Mark Henry panicked. The announcers tried to hold it together. The doctor pulled out a giant, slimy hand. Not a baby, not a creature, not even a human-sized limb, just a hand, covered in more gel than a 90s boy band. It was so ridiculous that the WWE resurrected the joke years later on Raw 1000, showing Mae Young with her now fully grown son, a man in a giant hand costume. This is the kind of long-term storytelling only the WWE could be proud of. No matter how many shocking, bizarre, or awful decisions the WWE makes, there is one storyline that consistently sits atop every worst of all-time list. Katie Vick. To recap the madness, Triple H in full Kane costume climbs into a funeral home casket and pretends loudly, awkwardly, painfully to have sex with a dead woman represented by a mannequin.
I thought you'd never ask, but
The silence from the arena, the uncomfortable commentary, the bewildered fans at home. This moment united the wrestling world in a single shared emotion. What the hell am I watching? Even lifelong WWE defenders tapped out here. It's a segment so infamous that the WWE themselves refuse to acknowledge it today, and for good reason. While she's drugged in another entry from the What Was Triple H Doing in the Early 2000s file, we have the Vegas drive-thru wedding segment. Stephanie McMahon, unconscious in the passenger seat, Triple H gleefully driving to a wedding chapel, a priest performing the ceremony over a literal unconscious body. Triple H proudly announced to the world that he drugged and kidnapped Vince's daughter, and then implied they consummated the marriage while she was out cold. The crowd reacted like they were witnessing a felony in real time. The WWE would later retcon the story by claiming Stephanie was in on it from the beginning, but that doesn't change the fact that the original segment aired as comedy. It's the kind of moment that makes you look around and think, who approved this? Who filmed this? Who thought this was okay? Thanksgiving 1990, a giant mysterious egg sat at ringside for weeks. The WWE hyped it relentlessly. Fans speculated wildly a new star, a shocking return, maybe even a massive debut worthy of the Survivor Series stage. Nope. What hatched was the Gobbly Gooker, a man in a cartoon turkey costume who danced, flapped, jumped, and celebrated like he was auditioning for Sesame Street at 3 a.m. Even children booed, even the announcers sounded confused, even the turkey seemed embarrassed.
What in a world?
The Gobbly Gooker became instant shorthand for creative disaster, and the WWE has been trying to pretend it was a joke ever since. One of the strangest nights in WWE history unfolded when Vince McMahon walked solemnly to his limousine, climbed inside, and the entire vehicle exploded. Gone. Incinerated, treated as a legitimate death. The WWE even held a tribute show. Superstars acted heartbroken. News outlets picked up the story. It was the most committed piece of kayfabe WWE had ever attempted, a storyline so serious that even the dirt sheets struggled to figure out what was real. But then, tragedy struck in real life. The Chris Benoit case. The WWE immediately abandoned the limo storyline. Vince reappeared on television alive and well, and the entire angle vanished like it never existed. It remains one of the most surreal. This was supposed to be a storyline moment in wrestling history. Nick Dinsmore was one of the brightest in-ring talents the WWE had waiting in developmental. Smart, technical, charismatic. So naturally, the WWE took this gifted performer and saddled him with one of the most controversial gimmicks ever created. Eugene, a character portrayed as having a childlike mind and an idolization of wrestling, was designed to be heartwarming. But the WWE being the WWE, the portrayal often slipped into infantilizing humor, mocking mannerism, exaggerated stereotype, and awkward situations.
No, that's it. Stay there.
Triple H, I messed up last night. I made a mistake.
Is that what you think? I know what you think!
bounty.
Okay.
Crowds didn't know whether to cheer, cringe, or question why this was considered acceptable. The WWE even teased turning Eugene heel and encouraged fans to chant the R word at him, a moment that proved just how tone-deaf the company could be. While many wrestlers praised Nick Dinsmore for playing the role authentically and respectfully, the gimmick itself remains one of the WWE's most uncomfortable creations. There are bad matches, there are terrible matches, and then there is the Kennel from Hell. On paper it sounded fear. A steel cage inside Hell in a Cell, surrounded by vicious guard dogs. Al Snow and Big Boss Man would battle in a wild fight while the dogs circled, snarling and ready to maul. But theory is one thing, execution is another. The dogs didn't bark, they didn't attack, they didn't growl, they peed, they pooped, they napped, they humped each other. The wrestlers tried their best to sell fear, but the dogs were too busy having the time of their lives in a giant playpen. Instead of a terrifying war, fans got a chaotic petting zoo with a wrestling match happening in the middle. It remains one of the WWE's most unintentionally hilarious disasters. The Attitude Era had many moments of dark comedy, but none more chaotic and unhinged than the time Big Boss Man literally stole Big Show's dead father's casket during the feud. Boss Man pulled up in a police car, taunted the grieving family through a megaphone, hooked the casket to his cruiser, and sped off. Big Show's reaction? He sprinted, he dove, he latched onto the casket and surfed it. Not metaphorically, literally. 7 feet tall, 500 pounds, riding a casket like a skateboard powered by grief and desperation. It's such an outrageous visual that even the WWE couldn't have predicted how iconic it would become. In 2002, Billy Gunn and Chuck Palumbo were one of SmackDown's most consistently entertaining tag teams. Their gimmick, two men with a not-so-subtle romantic tension, got heat, laughs, and curiosity from fans. Then came the proposal, then came Glad's Pray, then came the groundbreaking commitment ceremony on SmackDown. It was a moment that could have been historic for LGBTQ+ representation. Instead, the WWE booked a massive swerve. Right after exchanging vows, Billy and Chuck suddenly shouted, "We're not gay!" The reveal infuriated Glad, embarrassed the company, and showed that the WWE used the entire storyline as a publicity stunt rather than meaningful representation. A wasted chant and one of the WWE's biggest PR fails. If daytime soap operas and horror movies had a baby raised by WWE writers, it would look exactly like this storyline. Kane kidnaps Lita. Lita reveals she's pregnant. Kane claims he's the father. Matt Hardy fights Kane in a till death do-apart match. Lita must marry the winner. Kane wins. Lita is miserable. Fans are confused. Then, during a match, Kane gets knocked into Lita, causing her to miscarry.
Wife is in that hospital bed with the 50-50 chance that our baby will live,
leading to Snitsky's infamous catchphrase, "It wasn't my fault." What follows is months of stalking, taunting, mocking, and emotional whiplash. At the end, nobody looks good, the storyline loses direction, and the WWE quietly moves on. One of the strangest, longest, and most uncomfortable sagas in wrestling history. Jim Ross is one of the most beloved voices in wrestling history, respected, trusted, and cherished by fans and wrestlers alike. So naturally, when he needed real-life colon surgery, the WWE responded with a 7-minute on-air comedy sketch mocking him. Enter Vince McMahon as Dr. Heine, complete with lab coat, stethoscope, and a smile that screamed, "I should not be allowed near medical equipment." The scene, a hospital bed, a pair of overly wobbly rubber buttocks from Spencer's Gifts, a nurse who looked more like a character from a bad soap opera, and Vince aggressively pulling props out of JR's colon. He yanked out various items and objects that somehow survived the journey through kayfabe digestive hell, and capped the entire spectacle by removing a mannequin head wearing a Jim Ross mask. Because apparently JR had his head up his arse. Fans didn't laugh, wrestlers rolled their eyes, and JR, recovering from actual surgery, called it one of the company's most embarrassing moments. Even by the WWE's lowbrow comedy standards, this was something else entirely. Imagine turning on Raw expecting wrestling, drama, chaos, and storytelling, only to be greeted by a parody match featuring Akon, a fake Rosie O'Donnell, a fake Donald Trump, and a crowd rapidly losing the will to live. In 2007, the WWE decided to capitalize on the real-life feud between Rosie and Trump by staging a match. Not real Rosie, not real Trump, just two performers buried under wigs, prosthetics, and pain. The match was supposed to be comedy. Instead, it was torture. Fake Trump used a flying hairbutt. Fake Rosie fell, rolled, stumbled, and did impressions nobody asked for. The audience booed relentlessly. Even the announcers couldn't pretend to enjoy it. This wasn't a wrestling segment, it was a cry for help. One of the most unanimously hated bits the WWE ever produced. Rarely has the WWE blurred the line between fiction and genuine panic as effectively or irresponsibly as they did in this segment. Steve Austin, mid-feud with Brian Pillman, decided to break into Pillman's house on live television, with cameras following every step like a reality show from hell. Meanwhile, inside the house, Pillman grabs a gun. Austin storms in. Pillman cocks the weapon. Cameras scatter. Chaos erupts. And then Raw cuts to black. No resolution, no follow-up, just complete blackout, as fans at home wondered if they'd just witnessed a murder. USA Network was furious. Sponsors complained. The WWE excused it as edgy content, but even the Attitude Era had limits, and this was the night the WWE found them. You know a storyline has gone too far when even the wrestlers involved later admit they tried to forget it happened. Big Boss Man, during his run as one of the WWE's most sadistic heels, decided to escalate his feud with Al Snow in the worst way imaginable. He kidnapped Snow's beloved dog Pepper, then he cooked it, served it, and fed it to Al Snow. Snow unknowingly sat at a table with Bossman, complimented the meal, and even asked for seconds, only for the horrifying reveal that he had just eaten his own pet. All of this culminated in the Kennel from Hell match, making this one of the WWE's most layered disasters. Fans still debate which is worse, the moment Snow ate his dog, or the fact that the WWE thought it was good writing. The payoff to months of build-up, speculation, and hype. For weeks, the WWE teased the reveal of Vince McMahon's secret, long-lost son. Fans theorized like it was an episode of Game of Thrones. Could it be Mr. Kennedy, Randy Orton, Carlito, a returning legend? No, it was Hornswoggle. The reveal landed like a wet bag of potatoes dropped off a roof. Even the live crowd looked confused, as if they assumed someone else would run out and reveal it was all a joke, but it wasn't. The WWE proudly announced that Vince's heir was a leprechaun. It was supposed to be funny. It wasn't. It was the moment every fan collectively thought they had no plan, did they? And then there's Big Show, a 7-foot, 500-pound man surfing his father's coffin as Big Boss Man drags it through a cemetery like a GTA side mission. It is visually stunning in the worst possible way. Big Boss Man speeding in his police cruiser, casket bouncing behind him like a wrecking ball. Big Show running full force. Big Show leaping onto the casket like he's auditioning for Jackass. Big Show sliding across the lid, clinging for dear life. Everything about the scene screams, this should not be happening, but the fact that it did happen and aired on television cements it as one of the most ridiculous, unforgettable, pure WTF moments in wrestling history. The Attitude Era was chaotic, unhinged, and lacking brakes, but this was evidence they removed the brakes, lit them on fire, and chucked them into the sea.
When you look back at all these moments, violence, absurdity, racism, misogyny, dead serious scandal, lowbrow comedy, and the kind of insanity only pro wrestling can produce, one thing becomes painfully clear. The WWE has never been normal. This company has made a legacy out of exploding limos, castration threats, courtrooms full of little people, fake funerals, fake weddings, fake presidents, dead girlfriends, live births of hands, racial parodies, and the absolute Wild West of mid-2000s creative chaos. And yet, we still watch, we still laugh, we still shake our heads, we still remember every moment, because as much as the WWE frustrated us, as much as the WWE embarrassed itself, as much as the WWE took storytelling way too far, these WTF moments became part of wrestling history. They're the segments fans show to friends to say, this is the sport I love, and then we try to explain ourselves for 20 minutes. If nothing else, these moments prove one thing: pro wrestling has never been predictable, and that's why it's unforgettable.